We have once again an Isuzu Mu-X. Let's give it a review. The current generation Isuzu Mu-X was launched in 2021, completely new from the ground up. After 2 years on the market, let's see how it has held up against other rivals. Since then, prices increased. This is the Isuzu Mu-X 3.0 LSE 4x2 and it's priced at 2,155,000 Philippine pesos. Looking at the exterior, the Mu-X is not showing any signs of aging, especially in front with its striking design. Here we get these sharp LED headlights with equally sharp LED DRLs, the signature double-fanged Isuzu grille, and LED fog lights below. There's not much to say about the side, but we do get a nice set of 20-inch two-tone alloy wheels, which I think are one of the best in the segment. It is good to note though that some markets get an updated design which we still don't get at this time. Now towards the rear, we get a very crossover looking design. This gets LED taillights which look great at night even with their simplicity. Also, it does look like a Mazda sometimes from afar. Once you open the power tailgate, the Mu-X is probably one of the most spacious SUVs in terms of cargo capacity, and you can tell just by looking at it. This also has underfloor storage and a still decent amount of space with the third row seats up. So now we're inside the Isuzu Mu-X LSE 4x2 automatic, and as you can see here, just like the exterior, the interior is pretty much the same as the 4x4 that we showed you last year. Of course, materials are the same, so we have lots of soft touch leather on the dashboard and some hard touch plastic on the middle portions. And then for the doors, we also have hard touch plastic on the upper portion and leather on the middle portion, as well as the armrest. And it has some really nice looking white stitching, which we really like for some additional contrast in the interior. And then for the design, it still looks really good. So as you can see here, it's still one of the best looking dashboards in my opinion for the SUV segment. And also, I also really like this silver gunmetal gray like material over here. So that's really nice, and also some chrome over here. What I do have to say is that this piano black portion here in the center console is a bit of a scratch magnet, and there are lots of black buttons, so that could be improved next time. Then for the steering wheel, we have of course the same steering wheel. It's nicely leather wrapped, also with white stitching, and then of course it's built-in telescopic, which is really nice, especially for people with short arms like me. And I don't know if you saw that, but the storage area just opened right now, so it showed itself to us. So anyway, we have some storage over there on the middle portion of the dashboard, which many SUV buyers really like. Then here in the steering wheel, we have our audio controls on the left, our Bluetooth phone controls, then our adaptive cruise controls, speed limiter, and our controls for the instrument cluster on the right. Then for the horn, it's just your typical Isuzu horn, so it sounds like a Toyota horn. Anyway, speaking of the instrument cluster earlier, we have our traditional analog gauges, which I really like because they look really good here in the Mu-X. Then we also have a screen in the middle. It's a bit of a small screen in my opinion. I think it should be bigger, just like what you'd see in a Nissan Terra instead of what they have here. But anyway, it does show us lots of information. So we have our trip computer, trip A and B, our fuel economy coaching, our ADAS screen, and then our illumination mode, so the brightness of the screen, and then our different settings. So it does show us a lot of information, although again it is quite small, so there are some things that it may be too small to read, such as the fuel gauges, the temperature, and the other information. They're really small, so I think that should be improved next time again. Then moving on to the center, we have our 10.1-inch touchscreen infotainment system, and this is really easy to use because it's really big, and then we have the big icon, so everything here is easy to understand actually. So you can see here everything is big. But what I do think is the downside here is that this is not an original Isuzu screen, so I think that should be improved. Instead, we should get here the same screen that we get in the Mazda BT50, which I just showed you last week. But anyway, at least this does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so we can actually connect our phone right now through the USB port down here. And then there we go. So we have Apple CarPlay right there. And of course, when you have Apple CarPlay, the screen does look a lot better, and of course it's a lot easier to use. Although what I did notice here as well is that it is a bit bright, so it doesn't have enough contrast, so it kind of looks a bit cheap. But anyway, at least we do have Apple CarPlay again. Also, we also have a clinometer over here, so This shows us the vehicle's angles while we're off-roading or even on a normal road, and also our elevation where we currently are. And also, in addition, for the screen, we do have some touch sensitive controls on the lower portion, and they're pretty easy to use as well, but of course it's still better to have physical buttons. And then we also have a shortcut here for the navigation, so that's there. Then moving down, we have our dual zone automatic climate controls with its own display, which looks really nice. And then we have our fans in the middle, so very easy to use. Temperature, everything here is easy to use, especially when you get used to it. At first it may be a bit confusing, but once you get used to it, very easy to use. Then moving down, we have our 12-volt power outlet, our USB port and auxiliary port, so we still have aux here, so there we go, USB port. And going down, we have our storage area where we can hide the car key and even our house keys and even other stuff like a wallet or phone. Then of course here our shifter, which looks really nice as well, also feels really good, so that's something really nice. Then of course when you put it in reverse, it shows our reverse camera, and as you just heard, that's the rear cross traffic alert of this vehicle. Then again, here in the center console, lots of blank buttons, but we do have here our hill descent control and our stability control button. Then of course in the middle, our electronic parking brake with auto hold function, which you really have to hold if you want to activate it, but that's not a problem. Then of course 2 cup holders in our center armrest with 2 cup holders in the middle. Then for the seats, the same seats we find in the Isuzu D-Max, Mazda BT50, and of course these are one of the best seats in the SUV segment for sure, because first, they're really soft, then they're really supportive. You can see here, even my shoulders are very well supported, so they're really comfortable. And you also have some lumbar adjustment over here, which is manual, but this is okay, not a problem at all. Then also, this driver's seat is already power adjustable. The passenger seat is manual, and of course they're wrapped in a really nice leather, perforated leather by the way, with white stitching again, which looks really nice, so they feel very premium. Now we're here in the second row of the MU-X, and of course it's pretty much the same as what we'd find in the 4x4. Same materials in front, so we have perforated leather, white stitching, and of course the very nice material. And then for space, we do have lots of leg room, lots of knee room, lots of headroom, so pretty good headroom, knee room, and foot room, so really good space. And of course the seats are really comfortable as well, unlike in the D-Max. Let's say this is a lot more comfortable than over there because the seats are really soft, so that's really nice. Then other appointments here are pretty much the same as the others, so we have here our hook, which can hold about 4 kilograms. Then we have here a home power outlet, so we can charge here our phones using the normal plug that we use at home. Then also 2 USB ports, which is of course very much appreciated for SUVs like this, especially when you have your family with you. And then on the ceiling, we have our 2 aircon vents here in front, and then 2 at the third row. Then over here we have our lights, and then our control for the air vents. So just basic, just a fan speed control. So this isn't a tri-zone system, only dual zone like I mentioned earlier. Then of course here in the middle we have our center armrest with pop-out cup holders, which is really nice. Then we can also convert this into a storage area when we hide the cup holders inside. So as you can see, there we go. So we can actually remove the cup holder and keep this as storage. Anyway, I think we can now check out the third row seats. Now we're in the third row of the MU-X, and as you can see here, unlike most SUVs, we actually have loads of space. So that's a lot. So we have lots of leg room. We actually have foot room, and then a decent amount of headroom. So I actually won't mind staying here during maybe short drives. Of course, this is still best for children, but this will actually work for adults my size as well. So if I failed to mention, I'm 5 feet and 7 inches in height, so this is surprisingly really good. So we can't adjust the second row actually, but Isuzu was able to give us lots of space back here, so that's really nice. Then third row passengers aren't forgotten. Like I mentioned earlier, we have our air vents here on top. We have 2 cup holders and some storage. Unfortunately, we don't have a USB port or power outlet, but at least again we do get all of this space right here. Although the seats are a bit more uncomfortable compared to the front, so we still have the same material, but they are a bit harder and a lot flatter than the ones in front. But again, the space really does make a big difference. So good job for the third row Isuzu. Can't move it, but we don't have to. So anyway, let's go ahead and take this out on a test drive. So now we're driving the Isuzu MU-X 3.0 LSE 4x2, and of course, we've driven this a lot before. So we've had the D-Max, the other MU-X variant, so this should feel very familiar to us. So anyway, this is powered by the same 3-liter turbo diesel engine that produces 190 horsepower and 450 Newton meters of torque paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission. And by the time we're shooting this, we're actually currently at around 780 kilometers. So we've driven this for almost 800 kilometers right now, and that's a lot to experience fully how this vehicle performs. So right now we're driving the city, and I must say that it feels really good to be driving in the city because you can really feel all that power, you can feel all that torque. It doesn't feel like it's missing out at all or it's missing any at all. But of course, when you get on the highway, that's when you feel how good this vehicle actually is. Overtaking power is plentiful, and again, the torque, you can really feel all that. Although what I did notice is that when you're driving here in the city, even if it's really good, there are actually times that you may feel that you are losing a bit of power on the lower end. So that's at lower speeds or during very steep uphill drives, but it doesn't really bother me. And then when it comes to steering and handling, the steering is understandably a bit on the heavier side because we are still using a hydraulic power assisted steering setup, unlike other vehicles like the Ford Everest, which already use electronic power assisted steering. But still, it feels really good because we do have lots of feedback. So like now we're actually turning, and that feels really good. And of course, when taking corners, you really feel like you know where the vehicle is heading to. And then once you are on the highway, so this feels very stable actually, unlike other vehicles. Let's say the Montero Sport, which we have one in our garage, so we're really familiar with that. And this one feels a lot more stable than that, even at higher speeds. Then of course, when taking corners on twisty roads, of course, this isn't a sports car, so you won't expect this to handle the best, but it still does really well. Although there is a little bit of body roll, but that's already expected from a vehicle of this class. And then for ride quality, it is also surprisingly really good. So this sits right in between, I think, of all SUVs. So it's a lot smoother than what you'd get in a Toyota Fortuner and Montero Sport, but it's also a little bit stiffer than what you'd get in a Nissan Terra and Ford Everest. So it's right in between, which is, I think, a perfect balance of everything. And then NVH insulation is also really good because road noise is hardly noticeable even at highway speeds. It's also very quiet in terms of wind noise, but in terms of engine noise, we can really hear that engine in typical Isuzu fashion. And of course, it's a diesel, but at least the engine does sound really good. So it's very throaty, it's very muscular sounding, which really matches the vibe of this SUV, or it being an SUV. In terms of fuel economy, I've driven this for about 800 kilometers, again, like I mentioned, and right now the computer says we're doing around 11.5 kilometers per liter. But according to our own testing, we were able to achieve around 18 kilometers per liter on the highway and around 12 or 13 inside the city. So these are really good numbers. Of course, this will depend on your driving style. Then Isuzu has also done their own testing, so they actually were able to achieve around 20 kilometers per liter or more. So you can actually drive this for about 1,500 kilometers without refueling. So to end this review, being honest, the Isuzu MU-X is not really first choice for many SUV buyers. Typically, they would go for the Montero Sport, for the Fortuner, but not the MU-X. But I think this is something that's really worth considering, because considering what you get for the price, so you get a very premium interior, you get a very good looking exterior, it looks very unique, it stands out from the rest of the SUVs, and of course the performance is really good, the fuel economy is really good, everything about this is really good. So there are some things that it could improve, such as the infotainment system and maybe a little bit NVH for the engine, but overall I think this is a really good buy, and I think more buyers should really consider choosing the Isuzu MU-X.